And if they just need to be left alone, it's not a rejection, it's a need. Hi, Eileen Floyd, your life coach here. Another warm and fuzzy topic, but one that every single one of us, with no exceptions, is going to encounter at some point. And it's grief. We are made to love. That's in our nature. And when you love, you're going to encounter loss. And with that loss of love, from whatever source, comes grief. Grief hits suddenly. Even if you have a loved one who's been ill for months and months, when that final moment of parting arrives, the grief is staggering, even though you feel you have had time to prepare. We're never prepared to part with those we love. I want to talk about grief. I want to talk about how we endure it and overcome it and work through it and grow from it. I also want to talk to those who are close to the circle of those who are in that place of grief and give you some do's and don'ts, because I'm a practical person. So let's deal with the do's and don'ts for the friends, for the circle around the grieving individual. Rule number one, don't ask a person who's grieving, if I could do anything for you at all, just give me a call. Because when we're in a place of grief, we're in a fog. It's almost a place of mental confusion, because our brains, our whole being, that we're trying to process this enormous loss. This voice we'll never hear again. The touch of a dog or a pet, a beloved cat that we'll never see again, that will never come to us when we call them again. So we aren't prepared, if we're in a place of grief, to say, well, if you could stop by and pick me up 3 cans of chicken soup and maybe run that load of laundry for me because I'm completely out of towels. We're not there. So what I would tell you, first of all, is don't say, call me if I can be of any help. Be of help. Drop off a meal if you're close enough. Just come on in and grab a laundry load, a basket thing, and take it home. Wash it and bring it back in a day. If you see that their trash needs to be put out curbside, do it for them. If something needs to be picked up or cleaned up, do it. And if they just need to be left alone, respect that. It's not a rejection. It's a need to curl up with God and bleed. So let them bleed. So that's number one. Don't just ask them to tell you what they need. Figure it out. Anticipate. And just silently step in and fill those needs. Next thing I would tell you is, don't compare. It's a very common thing to say, oh yes, I know when my Jerry passed, blah, 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 blah. This is not the time to play one-upsmanship. This is not what the grieving person needs to hear. That's just being competitive, saying, I understand because I've been deeply hurt too. No. Compassion doesn't require verbal comparisons. Just listen. Just hug. Just be there with your presence and your kindness. Nothing more, but never make those comparisons to your own personal losses. I think the last thing I would tell you is this. Yes, I am a Christian. Yes, I believe in the Word of God. I love the Lord. But when someone is grieving, I don't walk up and smear them with platitudes, because I've had it happen to me, and it didn't help me at all. In fact, it just frustrated me and made me a little angry and irritated. This is not the time to be saying, he's in such a better place and we should all be celebrating. Well, pardon my selfishness, but I'd really rather have him here with me. That's the heart of the person who's broken and grieving. So if you've got some religious platitudes, save them for when that poor person is able to actually receive them. And the day or the week of impact, that is not the time. The most important thing you can say to a person who's grieving is, I care. I see you hurting, and I'm here for you. I will always be here for you. That's it. That's the most precious gift that you can give someone who's enduring terrible grief. Now, let me talk to those of you who are grieving. And I'm not going to minimize a loss because it was your puppy dog that passed, or your parakeet, or it could have been your spouse. It could have been your baby. We have terrible things that we grieve this side of the veil. And the good thing is we know from the Word of God that He's close to us when we're brokenhearted. He's there in that valley of the shadow of death. But let me give you a little more encouragement from an old lady. Grief was once presented to me by a good friend as being like the ocean. There's high tide, there's low tide. There's storms that affect the way the waves come crashing or pounding in. And then sometimes when the winds settle and they're still, the waves are smooth and gentle, and the water can even become as smooth as glass. And then get stirred up again and start pounding on the shore. Grief's like that. Sometimes you feel as if it's going to crush you. You can hardly breathe because the pain is so unbearable. But I promise you, having been there myself more times than I want to remember, the pain does ease up. Will it come back? Yes. I buried my husband 21 years ago. And once in a while, I will still see something, hear a voice inflection, a laugh, a piece of music, and suddenly I'll get stabbed in the heart with, oh my gosh, he's gone. And the grief washes over me. And then I move on. How do you move on? Take all the time you need. I've heard so many people say, and I want to kick them in the shins, you know, you need to pick up and move onward. You can't just stay in this place forever. Well, excuse me. There's no timetable for grief. You take all the time you want. Grieving is not a place, it's a process. And it's something we have to move through. And if I can encourage you, as we move through grief, there are things growing and being formed in our character and in our relationship to our Creator that probably would never get there any other way except through that terrible grief. That's when we really bottom out and realize we're mortal and we are not in control of what happens to us or anyone we care about. But there is one who is, and one who is there. And He will bring you through it, and He will bring you out of it. And He will take the memories that are painful, and they'll become like that soft, smooth water that's shiny like glass. They will become something beautiful. But you have permission and give yourself permission to cry, to wail, to kick, to scream, to withdraw, to isolate a bit here and there. Everybody works through grief a different way. I think those who kick and scream and howl probably do a little better. That seemed to be the path I took a lot of times. But there is no one and only approved method. And by the way, we who are Christian, we know where our saved loved ones are. I have a grandbaby who went home last year. Her parents, they are never going to stop grieving for her to some degree, but they've pressed on because they love Jesus and they're going about their lives and they're trying to focus on their blessings and what God has called them to and move on from that terrible loss. But we also know one day when I cross through the veil, one of the first things I want to do after I meet my master, have that little baby put in my arms. One other thing I want to add. When I was a young minister, I had someone in my church come up to me and ask me, how can people be happy in heaven knowing that when they die, they leave behind grieving loved ones? Doesn't that make them sad? How can they be happy? And I had no answer for them. I was young. I hadn't lived through this yet. I hadn't lived through enough losses. But now in my 7th decade of life, I have an answer for you, and I hope this helps you. There is no time, space, or matter in heaven, in the spiritual realm, which means that when we are transposed from to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord in that instant, we are no longer here. We're with Him. We're in the spirit realm, 100%. And guess what doesn't exist there? Time. So let's use me as a hypothetical. In the instant that I cease to breathe and my heart stops beating here on this earth, I will be present with the Lord. And will I be grieving for the people I love here? No. Because one instant, I'm there. One instant, they'll be with me. There's no time. I won't feel like I'm drumming my fingers on heaven's dining room table, waiting for my loved ones to show up 30 or 40, 50 years later. No, because there is no time. In the blink of an eye, I will be reunited with anyone who is ever dear to me and helped me in my walk through this earth. So I hope that that can be a comfort to some of you. If this helped you, I encourage you to hit like, share it with friends who may be going through grief right now, and subscribe so that you can be part of our family. Why do I share all of this with you? How to cope with grief, how to try to find your way through the grieving process, because you matter. If you'd like to communicate with me, reach out to me personally, even as a life coach. Look at the screen because it has a website on it, and I am one click away on that website.